ready for some Walking Dead? Excellent. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get our cast members up here. First and foremost, Ann Mahoney. You know her as Livia. Jeremy Palko. Andy. And Juan Pareja. Morales. How y'all enjoying the con so far?
Woo! So far, so good.
What's up, Colorado Springs?
Alright. So this panel is all about you. The living dead after the walking dead.
So dead.
Big spoiler alert, we are all dead.
So dead.
Anybody in the room not know that already?
So get out. Get out.
So let's kind of dive into it a little bit different. I'm sure you guys all want a lot of information. So how about each of you take a minute, give us your first time being on set, what it was like auditioning. A bit of background.
Well, I had just moved from Texas to California when I got a call from my Houston agent saying, hey, Frank is doing a new show in Georgia, and I had worked with Frank Darabont a few years prior on a film in Shreveport called Stephen King's The Mist, where I also play a guy by the name of Morales. Funny enough. And then, so basically they said that Frank was interested, he had me in mind for a role, I put myself on tape, and then on my phone, had a little selfie audition, sent that over, and the rest is history. And then that's how I first got on the show. And that was my first kind of an only audition for the show. And then I disappeared for a while, and then I guess we'll pick up for any questions further on down the line. But that's basically how I got involved in the world of The Walking Dead. And through just, you never know which seeds and kind of what experiences are going to lead to other work down the line, and this just happened to be one of those projects.
Excellent. Original OG right here. I love it.
OG.
He was the original. I have fans coming up today, which is so cool. They're like, I've been watching since the beginning. I love you, and I'm like, I came in season 6. But no, I read for the show when it first came out. I was living in Orlando, and the talk was just a zombie show or something like that. And I read for the first that there's an officer in the very first scene, the kid that I think Rick stabs or something like that. I went for that role. A year later, went for another role, didn't get it. For 5 years, I didn't get it. And I actually read for Dwight. I read this really cool part, and then when the show came out and I heard him speak, I was like, oh my God, I read for... And then he got his penis bit, so I'm glad I didn't get it. But no, I read for, I'm sure maybe you guys had the same experience, but we got fake sides. So I had to read a bank robbery scene as the character, Alex or something like that. And so I read it twice, sent it in, and I got lucky, I booked off tape. That doesn't happen a whole lot these days, so I didn't have to go see anyone. They literally said, okay, he's good enough. And then I got on set, and I was really nervous because I'd never seen the show, but when I got cast, I binged 5 seasons, so I went straight from watching all of it to meeting Daryl Dixon. I didn't look at him as Norman. I was like, what's up, Daryl Dixon? But my character gets his arm broken, so the first thing we had to do was fit a cast on me. And they put it on my right hand, so I'm walking around trying to introduce people, or say hi to people, and I'm just giving them awkward high fives. And at the end of the day, they said, well, are you right-handed? I was like, yeah. And they're like, why don't you just tell us? We'll put it on the left hand instead. And I was like, you're The Walking Dead, man. You do what you want. So that first day was nerve-wracking, but then, I'm sure they can attest to this. The cast is so cool, and you immediately don't become nervous, and it's fun.
I did the fake sides, and my character's name was Julia in the fake sides, and she was a woman who won a pot brownie baking competition. And she won a pot brownie baking competition, and she just gotten out of prison and was trying to convince somebody to let her valet park their Ferrari.
That was the audition?
Yeah, and the thing is,
the show's going in a different direction.
Right. I know the comic. I read the comic books.
Pot brownies and Ferraris.
It's wild, right? I read the comic books, so I was like, what was that? So I read the comic books and I thought, whoa, how do I do this? Because I know this is the zombie apocalypse show. Clearly it's not yuck it up for the whole audition, right?
Look who decided to show, sorry.
So that's his brother. Nice of you to come. I had to figure out how to balance that. Like I had to land the jokes, but I had to have the gravity of what the show had, right? So I auditioned. I was at the symphony with my mother. I live in New Orleans. You can cheer. It's I got out in the intermission. I had like 9,000 calls from my agent. And she's like, you booked The Walking Dead. And I was like, from tape, which was awesome. And that was Friday, and I had to be in Atlanta on Sunday. And I'm a theater trained actress. I never intended to do film and television. It happened to me. And so I'm crazy. I do like homework on stuff. I want to, when I walk into the room, the reason that you believe I am who I am is because I know myself for 42 years. So I want to feel like that about the characters I play too. I want to understand them, right? So there I am on set, and I just found out who I was, right? Because not until my costume thing, they're like, so you're playing Olivia. It was you that was the costume designer. And she's like, your character this and your character that. And I'm like taking the notes, you know, like, okay. So my first day on set, I'm like, I had my little homework notebook and I'm furiously writing, and Andy kept coming by. So sweet. He's like,
not this Andy, sorry. Andrew Lincoln.
Andrew Lincoln, sorry.
Funny story about that.
And he keeps coming by and going, what are you writing now? I was like, well, I wanted to do some research on perishable goods and how long they last, because Olivia would know these things, and I certainly don't know these things, right? And I had to do gun research because I know nothing about guns. So it was lovely. Everybody was very welcoming. My first lunch there, I was like sitting over at another table because I didn't want to infiltrate the table, and Glenn, Steve, was like, I said, no, I'm sure you guys have your seats, you know, you're close cast. He goes, you are the cast, sit down. So it was from the jump, it was just a lovely experience.
Lauren did that for me the very first day. I was so nervous, I sat in the corner, but they were serving lobster and shrimp my first day.
I never saw lobster.
My first day on set was lobster, and I was like, damn, I have to make it. I got a lobster. But the first day I sat in the corner, and yeah, like Steven and Lauren and all the big actors are in the corner, and Lauren Cohen came over and grabbed me and said, you gotta sit with us today. I didn't say a word at lunch, I was so scared.
Because like when Juan got on the show, you're in the beginning, right?
Yeah, so it was a little bit, I'll speak a little bit to the difference because I don't think the show was, well, nobody knew about the show, so I didn't have the secret sides experience. My audition sides were literally the first scene that I had when we found Rick and we're walking in through the department store and kind of just chastising him for making all that noise. But in a very similar way, showing up on the very first day, I mean, you got a sense that there were a lot bigger, important stars on the show that we were having, you know, an incredible opportunity to work with. And that is all, I don't think I still don't get used to that. When I show up and I meet somebody new again, who I just watched in film and television all my life growing up, I go to that awkward, weird kind of, I think just like everybody else does, moment of just taking that in. But everybody from the get-go, Andy from day one, was incredibly generous with his spirit, with his leadership, with his just generosity and kindness. And I think that certainly set a tone for everybody in the cast that carries, I think, still to this day.
I was going to say, in season 1, whatever that was, in season 8, he was the same way. He's just, for being as big a superstar as he is, and the ego he probably could have, he just doesn't. He doesn't. I recall going to set one day, and this poor lady in makeup was walking to set, and it's not far, it's like half a mile, or a quarter of a mile, but has her makeup kit. Andrew Lincoln was in the front seat and said, pull over. He got out, gave her a seat, and he walked to set. That's just, that doesn't happen ever.
Excellent. So it kind of leads me to the next direction. I want to go with a question, and we will field some out here as well. What would you say, each of you, is your most memorable incident on set? Like something happened that just really stands out the most when you think about your experiences?
For me, I guess it's a story I've told a few times before now, but I think it was episode 4, it was the campfire scene when we first get the invasion of the zombies that ultimately killed Beth, I think, if you guys remember that episode back in the first season. The rehearsal for that kind of caught us by surprise, and I remember experiencing real fear because we didn't get a full sense of where all the extras were going to be coming out of. And we were just kind of in it, and it was like they were going to shoot the rehearsal. And sure enough, we went to action, and we just had a general sense. And I thought that this was to find out the specifics of what exactly was going to go down. But then the zombies just started to file in from the wilderness, and they wouldn't stop. And there was just a real moment of real adrenaline, and everywhere I turned, there was like a whole new zombie. And just swinging for the fences everywhere I go. And that was, I think they just captured some real serious Pareja anxiety and adrenaline. Just didn't know where the next threat was going to be coming from. So that in my head stuck out as one of the kind of the most memorable experiences of shooting, because when you're shooting, you know everything, and everything is so well rehearsed, and that there is no element of fear or surprise that's genuine or real. It's just so hard because everything is so planned.
Yeah.
That was definitely a moment of real, kind of genuine surprise and finding my way to the scene.
I've told this story before, so I apologize if you've seen it, but it still is my most memorable moment on the set. Besides Andy crying the day he found out I was going to die, which was really special. Yeah. We were shooting the slap scene where I slapped Jeffrey D. Morgan, and he's a love, he's wonderful. And he's like, "You want to rehearse this?" And I said, "Yeah, stage slap, right?" He's like, "No, just slap me." I was like, "Well, I have brothers, and this could go badly for you." He's like, "Just slap me, it's gonna be no big deal, right?" So I was like, "Okay." So we did some practice. We did some practice scenes where I didn't slap him, and then the take that is in the episode is actually this one, which was I slapped him, and the look he gives when he comes back with his head, and we cut, and the entire video village poured out, and everyone was going, "Oh!" You slapped the out of you, you know? It was like, jeez, right? So for me, that was definitely the most memorable moment. It was a lot of fun.
I mean, I got a couple, but like I remember my very first scene, I was toe-to-toe with Andrew Lincoln, so I was scared. I was really scared. And I think the line had to do something with Greg and Craig, and I kept flopping the line, I kept mixing the name up. And finally, like, I think it was Norman came up behind me and goes, "Dude, you got the job, man, it's good." Because it was my first day, and then the second day I met Cutlets, and I had to fight him to the ground, and it was literally Michael Jeremy, get on top of him. So I did that, but I remember when we shot one time at the satellite station at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and everyone was just so tired. There's a scene where all the guys come in and we ambush the saviors. But like I said, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and out of nowhere, Stephen Young decided to just run in screaming like a wild animal, as everyone was supposed to be tactical and serious coming into the scene, and he just comes in screaming. And I'm trying to be serious because I'm holding the head, and I'm like, shit, did they rewrite something? I guess Greg Nicotero was just in a bad mood, so Stephen Young just told everybody, like Norman was doing it, like Michael, everyone just came in screaming. It just broke the monotony of the night, and everyone just had a good time after that.
So I suppose the next big one, because this is a panel of the dead of The Walking Dead. Let's talk about when you learned your character was dying.
Crap. I'm gonna start this one by saying I just got out of the shower and I was naked. And my phone is ringing, and I was about to go to set. I was up in Sonoya for season 8, and I grabbed the phone and I see Burbank, California. And I'm like,
Worst mouth ever.
kids, it's a big kids show. That was my sentiment exactly. And it was so funny because it was Scott Gimple, and he goes, "Hey, Jeremy, Scott Gimple here." And I was like, "Oh, why did I pick up?" Like, I really thought about this. If I just called in and said, "Listen, my car broke down on the way to work," would they really shut down production just for my character's death scene? Or would they just go, "I will get him on the next one"? So yeah, it sucked. It sucked so bad.
Yeah, most definitely sucked. So I got a call a couple of months before I guess season 8 started to shoot. And the call was like, "Hey, we're not saying that we're gonna do this, but if we brought you back, would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yes." Yes. But then it was just very up in the air. And so for 2 months, I didn't know if I was going to come back, how I might come back, if I was going to come back. So I had also put on a good number of pounds and was pretty heavy at that point, about 35 or 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And I wanted to super get in shape so that if I did come back, I would look half decent on the screen and might prove a formidable adversary or a member of the army or, you know, something to contribute to the army. And then I finally got finalized and I was going to come back. And like a week before we shot, I got the script. And I was like, what?
They really teased us with you.
Are you serious? And it was a huge gut punch. Because I was optimistic and I thought that there were some possibilities to explore with the storyline, kind of figure out, you know, what can happen to Morales.
Is everyone caught up, by the way?
We made this clear early on.
We did, sorry, I apologize.
But yeah, it was tough, and I had a hard time kind of dealing with that and processing it, and kind of just like, I was just really upset about it. My father he's a religious man, he's a deacon and a preacher. He said something to me, just really succinctly, but that kind of hit home and kind of did the trick. He says, son, sometimes the seed must die in order to bear fruit. And it was just what I needed to hear, and it allowed me to make a peace and come to terms with it, like in an instant. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so, I did it, and I had lost about 20 pounds by the time I shot. And then after it shot, I kind of maintained that momentum and kept moving forward to kind of get more and more in shape. But in that sense, though that character died, I definitely feel like new possibilities have opened up and other projects have come my way. But it was a very difficult, to be honest, it was a difficult thing to kind of process and to kind of deal with and kind of, at the same time, want to service the story and do the best that I could with what they had come up with. And just make the most of that opportunity when I had to come back on the show, because it was The Walking Dead. And I felt it was very bittersweet, but I'm incredibly excited to still have the opportunity nonetheless to come back. But it sucked.
I was gonna say, I'm still pissed at you.
I had a couple calls earlier in the season from Scott Gimple because he wanted to apologize to me for the fact jokes that they wrote into the script about Olivia. And he was very sweet. He's like, I just want you to know we don't think you're beautiful, we don't think of you that way, but Negan's an a-hole, and he would say these things. I'm like, yeah, okay. So anyway, but this call, it was like a Sunday, and I think my kids were running around, and it pops up, Scott Gimple pops up on my phone. I looked at my husband, I went, I'm dead. It's over. So about 6 weeks before we actually shot that. So, and I had to shoot a couple episodes there with that knowledge, you know. And the rest of the cast didn't know yet, because they hadn't gotten that script. And so, yeah, it's rough. I mean, I always say to people, like, you can hate a character, it's cool, but like posting things like, I hope she dies, you know, like you're basically saying, I hope you lose your job. You know what I mean?
And that's what I reply to those people,
like,
lose your job.
It's like, you know, so that's, just so you know, I mean, that's like, for us, that's our work. And, yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
So now, if any of you have questions, please put your hands up. We do have people who come around with microphones and will field the questions. And I'll keep throwing them out here as long as I have to.
Not all at once, please. Not all at once.
So the next one I think I'll throw at then is, besides, of course, your own deaths, anybody else that you worked with through the various times, who else had the most impact of a death scene to you?
For me, I think it was Stephen Yeun's death scene. Even Glenn's scene. Even before, when he had his false, kind of the misdirection when they thought that he had met his end and he fell off the dumpster. On that episode, I was jumping all over the place. I was like, no, you gotta be kidding me. I was upset. And then obviously, you know, when we saw what we saw at the top of, what's that, season 7 or season 6?
Season 7.
7, at the top of 7. That was just brutal. That was brutal. That was just, for me, the one that I felt the most kind of actually affected by.
I remember that dumpster scene where everyone was debating whether or not Steven's character was alive or dead, and I had just shot my first episode with Steven. So I was down in Orlando at a bar, and no joke, there's just two guys arguing to the death. And Glenn's alive, Glenn's dead, Glenn's alive. And I just wanted to be like, for $100, I will solve this problem. And I didn't do that. Two more drinks, it probably would have happened. I think it was Sophie's, the one when they found her through the bar. Because up until then, it was just a zombie show to me. Like, I was like, all right, this is fun, we're cool outdoors. But when they found her, it became such a different show after that, so.
Herschel. Yeah.
Why you gotta one-up me like that?
No, I'm trying to. It just
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Glenn definitely, because I read the comic books, and if you've ever seen the drawing, it's the most horrific thing you'll ever see. Yeah, it was imprinted in my mind after seeing it. So certainly it's horrific, and I felt closer to him because I knew him as the actor and worked with him. But Herschel was the one that made me cry. It's really just awful.
Well, his head's in the Smithsonian, I think. So
Really?
Yeah, they took his head, his sculpture, and it's in there with like Daryl's crossbow. So, yes.
Why you gotta one-up me like that?
We're not taking any questions.
So throughout the season, there's been a lot of advancements with the technology and the zombies, the things that you guys have had to deal with the day. Was there anything out there that just really took you, like you have your scene with all the zombies coming in and just flooding in over and over where you got the real fear? Was there any other moments that you can relate that were kind of those that hit you like that, where it was just too real or too much?
Not having my cell phone was pretty real.
Yeah.
No, I mean that, like, when we shot out the satellite station, it was like 40 miles out, and nobody had cell phone. Like, production was freaking out because they kept having to run, up to the hill to get reception. But it was just like my third day of shooting, but like not having that touch of like society and stuff, and just having to talk to people running, which is such a unique thing nowadays, like talking to people. But that was kind of fun. We're out in the mud and the trees and broke down RVs and kept breaking down. Yeah, not having a cell phone, as funny as it sounds, it made the character feel more real, which is great. And then you can see certain actors pull up their phones every 5 seconds and take you away, but it's fun.
They didn't have signal?
They thought they did. They're trying to just walking around like this.
Some happens are hard to break.
Yeah, right.
I would say certainly the scene with the wolves, or when all the zombies broke into Alexandria was trippy, but I kind of have to hand it to Jeffrey Dean Morgan here because he's a lovely person, and between takes we had a lot of fun joking around, but when he goes into character, he's terrifying. He's terrifying. I mean, that's the best acting, right? Is when you just look at the person and they give you everything you need. I don't have to pretend to be afraid. He's terrifying. So, I often say he's like the Richard III of Walking Dead. Like so many words, and such a bad guy, right? But he just that power that. Also, I'm tall for an actress. I'm 5'8", which basically means I'm an Amazon in the acting world. Because most actresses are like 5'2" and under. A lot of actors are too. So Jeffrey's a tall guy. So it was lovely to be in a scene with someone who I looked up at, and I felt like he could hurt me, and that's a gift. It's a gift from one actor to another that he was so into his character. Yeah.
I believe we have a question in the back.
Yes, we do. So there's a lot of deaths that happen in the show, obviously, and you said Mr. Palko, you were at the bar and those
You
guys...
don't call me Mr. Palko.
Mr. Palko, you were at the bar and those two guys were arguing. What would happen if you guys released a secret, like a main death that would have happened and, hey, TMZ, I'll sell you some information.
Well, here's the thing. That is a black mark on entertainment industry. That happens, you're never working again-ish. We sign confidentiality things like you wouldn't believe.
Scare the living daylights out of it.
Oh yeah. They said you can't go on Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, and then 50 other forms of social media
I've never heard of.
Whether they exist now or have yet to be invented.
Yeah.
Weird language of future technology that doesn't ever yet exist.
Don't they say something in other universes?
Don't
too?
even
Isn't there
think
something
it.
like this or
Don't even
other?
think it.
Don't even know.
No, and then I recall, after my first panel, I just got on the show in season 6, and that was the big cliffhanger, who did Negan kill, who did he hit with a bat? And I was doing a panel just like this, and it was one of my first ones, and somebody said, "Who is it?" And I said, "Obviously I can't tell you who it is," and I just became like a person and a human, and they asked me my opinion on it. And I was like, well, I think they would probably go with Glenn because of the comic books. And that person went on Twitter and said, Jeremy Palko confirms from The Walking Dead, Glenn dies. And luckily this person only had a select amount of followers, so I contacted them. I was like, please take that down now. And I just learned, don't have an opinion. Even now, like we're not even remotely close to the ideas of what's going to happen with the show. But like if we give our opinions, people believe that we know what's going on. No clue. So, don't tell TNT shit. Right here?
Yes.
Thank you.
When you guys get cast, do they encourage you to read the comic books because of the source material, or are they just, are they just more wanting you to go from the script so that the storylines don't get muddled up?
I mean, I think they do a really good job casting this show. They're cast pretty close to type in the show, at least I feel like I was, certainly. But no, they didn't. I already had read the comic books, but no, they didn't do that. But they did sit me down that weekend that I went up with Greg and Nicotero and Scott Gimple, and they gave me some background on Olivia that wouldn't have been in the comic books, so that was a lovely jumping off point for me to then kind of create the homework behind who she was and how she had gotten to Alexandria, which they told me, they straight up told me she came there very early on in the apocalypse, so she was really, really sheltered. So she didn't have to deal with a whole lot, and then she's like, I'll just take care of the pantry and the guns, it's cool, I don't have to go out the walls, right? So, yeah, that's it. And then the rest of it, they kind of, the lovely thing is they hire actors who, all the actors that I know are either theater trained or they're stand-up comics or people who have to really hustle, and they know we're going to do our work. The cast, they know we're going to do our work, and then they leave us to do our work, and they trust us with it, which is a gift, to be trusted as an actor.
I think the trust thing is big, because Andy, I looked him up in the comic books, and it was like, Andy was killed. That's all it said, like it was a supply run, and Negan apparently had killed Andy's character, so I was like, this is going to be a really quick shoot. And no, but yeah, the trust thing was big because I was always waiting for something, and very rarely it was just your instincts, like what would you do? So I think you're right with the casting, especially straight from tape. So they knew what they were getting. Wouldn't get any better than that. So there you go.
And I think there's a saying that I've heard a number of times that 90% of the directing is done in the casting. So that's really the hard part, is figuring out your cast and then trusting them to deliver the goods. But no, I don't recall them encouraging us to look over the source material, but I think any actor will take it upon themselves to try to do as much research as possible and figure out as much about the world that they're about to inhabit, so that they can kind of do their job to the best of their ability.
Hi, I was just wondering what...
Who's talking? I'm so sorry.
I'm right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What made you guys want to act, and what initially got you into acting?
What's your name?
Brianna?
Brianna?
Yes.
Thank you, Brianna.
I started in ballet when I was 4. I initially wanted to dance, and I danced for like 12 years, so I was 16, very, very seriously. And around 10, I decided I liked talking. And so I started doing plays. And the first play I ever did was Fiddler on the Roof. My father taught at Loyola University, New Orleans for like 36 years as the head of the jazz program there. So I was on stage, and it's just, for me, it's just always been. I don't know that there was a moment where I kind of decided. It just is always, I've always been on stage. I remember before doing the Nutcracker, I was an angel. It's my first performance at the Mahalia Jackson Theater in New Orleans, which is a huge, huge theater with a live symphony, and they have it's the top of the second act. They have the smoke going. It wasn't smoke then because we didn't have that, because it's a while ago. It was dry ice in a bucket and fans. And I remember standing there, and I was in the front. I was the lead angel because I had this father who's a musician, so I had a really good sense of timing. And I remember the curtain going up, the nervousness I felt, and basically telling myself, I better get my 4-year-old crap together right now. And then that was it. That was just, I fell into film and television kind of accidentally. I never intended to do it. I studied acting as a classical actor. Yeah, so it was not a decision, it just always was.
I played Grumpy in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs when I was in 3rd grade. And I was terrible at it, I was horrible. I had like one line, so I never really wanted to be. Actually, when I was a kid, I watched like Indiana Jones, and I either wanted to be an actor or an archaeologist. And I took archaeology in college, and it was so boring. And I think I just wanted to be so many things growing up, and I never thought that being an actor could be like possible. Like that's just not possible. And then after college, I took a few classes in college and really loved it, and I did the Disney College program. And then I went and worked for the Disney Cruise Line for 2 years. And I was on stage dancing like a pirate, and like step touch, step touch. And it was so silly and so fun, but I just remember starting to be comfortable standing in front of people, just being silly and things like that. And then I found an agent in Florida where I stayed. Started doing a lot of extra work, and I advise anyone who looks into acting, get on set as an extra and just watch people work and learn. And I realized I'm watching some of these big actors perform, and I'm like, I believe I can do that. So took a few classes, started doing commercials, extra work again, auditioning, and then just kind of happened to get one that changed my life. So.
I've always been somewhat of a ham growing up as a little kid, and liked to entertain and put on a show. I like to dance, I like to sing. I played the trumpet, so I was in marching band in high school. I was a drum major. I was a super dork in school growing up. And acting was just something that I started doing early on in junior high, and then was in all the plays in high school. And basically, I don't know, I really was like a dork and a nerd, really believed the hype that you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. I very naively took that to heart and thought that was a real thing. And I asked myself, and I really thought, man, I'm going to be successful no matter what I do. What's going to require the least amount of work and have the highest amount of payback? Acting. And I didn't anticipate or have any clue how ridiculous of a concept that was, and how the odds are totally stacked against you, and how not likely it is that you will succeed in this industry. I was just very naive and took it for granted. And slowly but surely decided to pursue that career. I went to school for it up at NYU, and lots of ups and downs over the years, and just kind of persisted. More than anything, persistence, I would say, has been the biggest factor in finding the little success that I've been able to find so far in this career. And 20 years into it, I feel like I'm just getting started. Even though I've got a decent amount of work under my belt, it's just I don't know if it ever feels like we're in the full thing or not, but it just still, to me, feels like way that we're just getting started. And that's how I got into it for the most part.
So we're running down to the end of this, but I'm going to go ahead and give you one more question. Kind of take a minute on this if you can. So, with the experiences from being on set for the show, if a zombie apocalypse were to happen for real, how do you think each of you would do personally, knowing what you know now?
Not well. I would find a Costco, I would barricade the doors, and there's got to be something in there I could like fend off people with, but, or a boat.
I mean, it's something I've contemplated, because I actually moved to New York after graduate school on August 18th of 2001, New York City. So I was there for 9/11, and then I lived in New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans, and I had moved back there in 2003, so I was there for Katrina. I think I did pretty good. I don't know about the killing of people, and I think that would be difficult for me. It's like killing people who are threatening, not zombies. Screw them. But people, I think that would be very hard. That aspect of it would be very hard for me. I would want to protect my family at all costs, but the idea of killing another human is so far from my soul that I think that would be, I don't know, I think that's where I would go out. I'd be like, I should kill you, and then they kill me.
I think you just like got to the heart of what Walking Dead is.
Oh, wow.
It's like that turn that is now, and it's fighting the living. So yeah, would test your spirit and your soul.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we fare much better now, having worked on The Walking Dead, knowing what pitfalls to avoid, what to look for. But I think us city folk and city boys are at a serious disadvantage. I'm from Houston, Texas myself, so I think the best chance that people have is their good old boy buddies, and with the trucks and the guns and the land and the resources and knowing how to survive off the land and the wilderness. So that would be my go-to, is try to call up my old high school buddies. Hey, y'all remember me? Can I come hook up with y'all?
I'd probably chop your head off, man. I'm from Seattle. We're gangster like that. And then we'll have some like Starbucks.
I would just make you a mint julep and ask you to chill out. Like, here, drink this and don't kill me.
I'm too trusting. I'm like, come on in, have a seat. Let's have some drinks. We would all die.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's see if anybody would have this just off the top of your heads. Body counts. Do you guys have body counts? How many zombies have you killed?
In this fictional future we're talking about, or on the show, The Walking Dead?
On the show, of course.
I think I have 8. I think I put down 8.
I mean, does Greg's head count as like half of one? Because then I have half of one. Yeah, I didn't have any killings. Well, I don't know. Maybe in the end I shot some saviors. Maybe in the scene, but no. In the Wikipedia, apparently my character has a few. What was that? A few.
I mean, I don't know. I must have killed a bunch of them when they came into Alexandria with my machete, but I don't think you actually ever see it. I knew. I was like, I got 50. Yeah. But instead it's
tattoo sleeve of just marks.
All right. Well, I believe that does conclude us to the end. So let's hear a big round for the Dead of the Walking Dead.